Good morning.
Good morning.
If we could get everyone to take a seat, we can get started. I'm sure there will be people joining us as we move along, but we want to be respectful of everyone's time and give us enough time to hear all of the important information that will be shared. I have the pleasure of simply introducing the congressman and then getting out of your way. I have the pleasure, though, of being a Philadelphian, and so I've had the opportunity to see the congressman throughout his entire public service career, and also to understand that he comes from a very distinguished family in our city that at a very young age taught him the responsibility of public service. He's taken that responsibility to heart and has, in his service, I won't say how many years, but in his service in the State House and in the State Senate and now in the Congress, has come to fundamentally understand the responsibilities to the local constituents that he represents and the country that he represents, and he continues to be aggressively, actively involved in local events in Philadelphia. But his record here in Washington now, as he is the ranking member of Commerce, Science, and Justice in the Appropriations Committee, has led him to become a national and international leader in brain research, to start a Gear Up program that has spent billions of dollars to educate millions of young people, understanding. He's been actively engaged in manufacturing and exploring opportunities for manufacturing to be re-engaged in our country, understanding that education and jobs are the key to improving the quality of life in the communities that we all care about. He is now the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and I assume that's how I found my way to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Board of Directors. And as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, he has given clear direction. We have invested considerable amounts of money in African-American banks around the country. We have sent young people to China to learn and to investigate and to become worldly and understanding. And he has also done the important work of saying, we are trying as the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation to disseminate information to African Americans around the country who don't have the benefit of being represented by African American congresspeople, but we ought to be sharing with them information, substantive information, in a nonpartisan way on the issues that are important to our community, so that they can understand where their interests are and confront their own elected officials on those issues. So it's my distinct pleasure to introduce my friend, Congressman Chaka Fattah.
Let me thank the former city councilman, deputy mayor, and president, attorney at law, and leader of one of the most innovative development and education groups in the country, George Burrell, for that very kind introduction. There's a lot going on, and I was just with the Attorney General, Eric Holder, just minutes ago in another room. Deval, he says, hey, he's cutting out.
Don't start something.
It's an amazing time here at the Congressional Black Caucus, our 44th legislative conference, and there's 70-some workshops and policy groupings going on, but we felt that as elected officials, it would be good to spend a few minutes together. And as part thereof, we wanted to give an opportunity as Governor Deval Patrick is concluding his term as the leader of a great commonwealth, not Pennsylvania, but a great commonwealth nonetheless. And he's done an extraordinary job that it would be appropriate for us to spend some time with him this morning. And we have with us a number of other leaders, both of the National Black Caucus and state legislatures. You'll hear from Joe and Adam, who I'll introduce both of them formally at a later moment, who leads the local Black Elected Officials Organization and is out of Rochester. But first, we want to hear a word from our sponsors, right? So the Congressional Black Caucus is proud to have, again, Pitney Bowes as a sponsor of this activity, and because of its work around the country, it has had a lot of relationships with local elected officials. They do a lot of work with state governments. So Ashley Lyons, who's here, who's the Vice President for Operations, I want to just give him an opportunity to say good morning, because he's helped us put this event together, and he's one of the primary sponsors of our annual legislative caucus. So please, say good morning.
Thank you, Congressman there. Pitney Bowes is really honored to sponsor the Black Elected Officials Roundtable here as part of the 44th Annual Legislative Conference of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation here. That's a mouthful for me to get out of there, but we are really pleased to do that. We've done it before, and we're very pleased with the results there. We've worked with the foundation and for years, sort of basically at the intersection of the conditions that affect our communities, all of our communities here, and also affect the 16,000 employees of Pitney Bowes scattered throughout the country and throughout the world there, and our 2 million customers. And basically, there are three reasons why our interest and your interest intersect, and they're really inextricably bound here. First, we've had a long-term interest here at Pitney Bowes in actively working to develop and maintain a diverse, inclusive environment. They have encased in our headquarters building in Stamford a letter from our CEO at the time, Walter Wheeler, telling the head of HR to get out there and hire people in the south end of Stamford where we're located that reflect the community, and that's a very diverse group there, so it dates back 70 years ago. We also have other programs and the like there. First of all, we do practice what we preach, I think. 41% of our workforce is minority, the U.S. workforce there. And in terms of how we recruit and develop a diverse workforce, we've got a lot to talk about there. For example, we have an Inroads program which is designed to bring in people from all manner of colleges and backgrounds, bring them into Pitney Bowes as interns and give them a corporate experience there. And then we hire many of those people, so therefore people get a taste of what a corporate environment's like, and it's been a really great source of talent with all the energy, all the youthful perspective and everything and the like there, and it's helped our company immensely there. And they do sponsor a lot of things. They're involved in education, they're involved in literacy, they encourage executives there to be involved in these programs. I'm on the board of Reading is Fundamental and the like there, which we're very pleased to do those kind of things and help our communities. The second reason, frankly, our business is aligned and to develop is that business doesn't operate in a vacuum there. Basically strong, healthy, diverse communities are good for, not only are they good for the country, they're good for our customers. In the end, it's good for Pitney Bowes. When people are there making money with good jobs, frankly, it's good for everyone here. And, it takes someone, if you want to sell products, you have to have the governments that can do it. You have to have the people that can buy it. So frankly, from a selfish perspective, it makes sense that everyone does well. And so when everyone does well, everyone can continue to do better. And then frankly, the third reason is, we're in the business of helping you communicate effectively. And obviously there are things we think we can do to help state and local governments and federal governments. And we were talking with Governor Deval Patrick just a second ago that 40% of our business comes from state, local, and federal governments there. That reflects basically the U.S. economy. So we're in the business of selling, to folks like you here and everyone else there, and we've got a number of products. Everyone's seen that ubiquitous Pitney Bowes meter machine in their office, the thing that goes kerchunk when you hear the put the mail through. In fact, it doesn't have to go kerchunk, but our engineers tell me that everyone expects the kerchunk, and so they measure for the kerchunk factor and put it into the equipment. Otherwise, they don't feel it stamped the letter. And we also do a variety. You hear the big businesses get those bulk rates. What we do for smaller businesses and state and local governments is we take their mail, put it together so they can get the lower bulk rates also. We provide those kind of services. Also, we're one of the world's largest software providers, and we're involved in a lot of areas. How many people have bought something on eBay? If you bought something on eBay, the payment structure is a Pitney Bowes engine that drives all that. So if you're thinking in terms of how you handle payments and the like, there are Pitney Bowes. If it can handle it for eBay, it can handle it for a variety of people. How many people go on Facebook or Twitter with their phone here? If you do that, the thing that you want to tell people where you are only if you want to, because it's voluntary. The location intelligence from that comes from Pitney Bowes there. We have a variety of mapping and location awareness solutions that do that. And so we have related products that help state and local governments track trucks, track everything from potholes and the like using that kind of software. And in fact, when you look at all that, basically, and through the customers, we touch about 1.2 billion people through all of those software applications there. So, I mean, we do it through that. We do it through a variety of means. So in terms of, with the location knowledge and everything, we do have the ability to help a lot of people. With that in mind, I was telling the story a little earlier about, in a former life, I used to talk in a different environment. I worked for the federal government, for the Postal Service, and I was the person who raised everyone's rates, and it always had me go on right before the evening reception. And I'd see people get a little bit antsy or whatever, and so I always knew that I was standing in the way of people enjoying something. So basically, at the end of my talk, I would tell them, I could see them, drink up, and basically my theme is going to be the same here. Instead of drinking up, literally, drink up the knowledge and information from this esteemed panel here. I think you'll learn a lot from this process.
Thank you very much. Now, we want to thank you for your sponsorship and support. We don't take it lightly, and we appreciate the commitment, the long-term commitment of the company in the area of diversity and in the area of technology. One of the things that we have launched is the Permanence Project, which is my principal priority as chair of the foundation, which is to create a virtual community so people in our country can get real-time information around public policy at the federal level. Now, Deval Patrick came to Washington originally as an assistant attorney general in charge of the Civil Rights Division under President Clinton. Now he's returned as the second-term governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I want to just thank him for joining us. He's been doing an extraordinary amount of activities. He's traveled internationally of late. I know him and his wife, Diane, are waiting for a point in which they won't have these hectic schedules, at least for a minute. But he agreed when asked excitedly to come and to spend some time here as a way to talk about, when we talk about local elected officials, when we look at the governorships of our country, there can't be a prouder example. Someone who's just done an extraordinary job. I went out and visited a couple years ago when he launched a consortium around life sciences, putting together the most innovative effort in the nation on neuroscience and other important research, bringing both the private sector and the academic sector together in a open source, pre-competitive effort to find real solutions to problems. But Deval Patrick is just an extraordinary leader, and we're going to hear from him, and then there'll be an opportunity for the panelists to say a few words. I want to introduce them. Joe Armstrong, who's a state legislator, but much more importantly, we spent some time together just 2 days ago with the National Conference of Black State Legislatures, which is a group that I started out with. George, I know you didn't want to mention the years, but 32 years ago, as a young state legislator in my 20s, but Joe leads this organization, and how many members now?
670.
670 state legislative members from around the country, and just doing extraordinary work, and then their partnership with our foundation is so very important. And we will have Donna Christensen, who will come by. She's hosting her own forum down the hall, but she's going to be the next governor of the Virgin Islands. She serves on the board of the foundation and has served with me for a number of terms here in the Congress. And then we have Adam McFadden, who from Rochester leads the Association of Local Black Elected Officials, and we're going to hear from him. But the first part of this is you're going to get a true treat. Now, I know there's been all this speculation on social media that Governor Patrick is going to replace Attorney General Holder. And I guess that has to do with the fact that he did play a leadership role in the department. But there was speculation a few weeks ago that he was going to replace President Obama. I think he keeps mentioning to people that his wife has a list of things that she'd like him to do some replacement things around the house, as he's going to be home for a minute. But he has 2 adult daughters, and he is just, if the country had a MVP position in every respect and at every turn, he's been an extraordinary public servant. I want you to welcome and listen to and have the governor explore his walk through history in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and what the future, he might let you in on what the future might behold. So take the podium and let's give an appropriate recognition to the 71st governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that elaborate introduction. And thank you for your leadership in the Congress and of the CBC Foundation. I have, like I think many of you, always enjoyed CBC Weekend. And I should have known, mindful of my experience at CBC Weekend and the quality of the recreation and entertainment, not to have accepted an invitation to do something first thing in the morning. I appreciate those of you who've shown up this morning, and there may be, in addition to coffee, some Advil or Tylenol also available. I'm going to be brief because I was promised that we could have some conversation, which for me is a lot more fun, to hear from you and to learn from you and to have some exchange and to hear from my colleagues on the panel. Just a word or two about what we've been trying to do in Massachusetts and how we've been trying to do it together, and really why as well. This is the only elective office I've ever held. As the congressman said, I had an incredible experience with some old friends here, serving as head of the Civil Rights Division in the Justice Department in the first term of the Clinton administration. And that was a great time and a great experience because it was an administration that was actually interested in civil rights. So we went to work and we got a lot of good things done, and it was, for me, my first exposure to public life and its incredible stimulation and its occasional cruelty, frankly. Its professional enrichment and its personal cost. I loved it. But at the end of it, it was time for me to go home and replenish my relationship with my wife and family, then small daughters, and replenish the treasury at home as well. So I went back into private practice. I ultimately became an executive at Texaco and then executive vice president at the Coca-Cola Company. And I was commuting back and forth home to Boston. My wife is a partner at Ropes and Gray, a law firm in Boston, and our kids were growing up. And I wanted a job closer to home. That's not the real reason I ran for governor. But I saw something in politics in America that I have worried about in business. In American business, there's this incredible pressure, especially in publicly traded companies, to manage for the next quarter, to get the short-term results, I think sometimes sacrificing the long-term interests of the enterprise. And I've been worried that that is becoming characteristic or emblematic of our politics as well, where we govern for the next election cycle or the next news cycle when we should be governing for the next generation. And so I wanted to test whether it was possible for someone with that kind of approach and vision to win an election, a statewide election. I wanted and was interested in the executive role, and so I decided to run. I had 2% name recognition. I know, I got a lot of that kind of reaction at the beginning. And I believed both practically and philosophically that the way to do this was to run at the grassroots. Practically because, frankly, the dynamic at home in Massachusetts is not so much Democrat, Republican, it's insider-outsider. It's a very tight, inward-looking political establishment, and cutting the line basically was how I was viewed. That wasn't going to be made any easier by the political establishment, many of whom had been my friends and continue to be my friends. But philosophically, because there are an awful lot of people who just don't feel connected to their government. They don't feel connected to the decisions that are made in Beacon Hill. I remember at our inauguration, we opened the State House and had a kind of a y'all come type thing, and I can't tell you how many people told me they didn't know the State House was open to the public. It's amazing to me, maybe not, amazing is too strong a word, it's disappointing to me, it's troubling to me, how many people feel disaffected from their representatives and their representative government. So we spent a year and a half basically walking around, driving around the Commonwealth, meeting people. And we built an extraordinary grassroots organization, which others have said, including the president, was the prototype for what he did nationally in 2008. In the last 8 years, we have achieved a 25-year high in employment in the Commonwealth. We were one of the first states to come out of recession, in part through the help of the Life Sciences Initiative that the Congressman mentioned. We are first in America in student achievement, in healthcare coverage. Over 99% of our residents have insurance. In veteran services, in energy efficiency, in economic competitiveness, and entrepreneurial activity, and on and on and on. We have consistently balanced budgets. We've achieved the highest bond rating in the history of the Commonwealth. We're surging. And I think that has been because we were prepared to look out and think about and govern for the next generation and not just focus on the next election cycle. And I got a lot of pushback from a lot of folks who have been in public life a long time in the first administration about how we should make decisions that were more conscious of the next election. And in 2010, when I ran for re-election, you'll remember the Tea Party was on the rise. Anger as a political device was in widespread use, and we were advised, and I was advised by a lot of people, to trim our sails, to not be quite so ambitious, not to think so big, not to reach in the way we did. And we said, and there was a very popular Republican running as the nominee of the Republican Party. But we trusted the people of the Commonwealth with the truth, with our realities, with some of the hard decisions we've had to make, and some of the important and beneficial and good decisions we've had to make, including around revenue, and we won solidly. So I will finish soon, and even sooner, these long opening remarks. But just I'm mindful of, maybe most appropriate for today's conversation, of an introduction made of me by the great Doug Wilder. One of the things that goes with these jobs in public life, you'll all know, is that when you get introduced, people exaggerate your accomplishments. I remember going to a delegate breakfast, the Virginia delegate breakfast at the first convention in Denver before the president was nominated the first time. And I went because former Governor Doug Wilder invited me to come, and he introduced me, and he said, you know, people make a big fuss about his being the first black governor elected in the United States. And he said, you know what, being first doesn't mean a thing unless there's a second. And I love that introduction. because it was the sort of thing that pricks your conscience about what you leave behind. And I think that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm glad to be with you all. Thank you very much.
Well, it's true, Governor Wilder and Governor Deval Patrick and Governor Patterson served in New York. But when January comes and the first Tuesday, the first African-American woman will be a governor of any state, territory, and it'll be Congresswoman Donna Christensen. Please join us up here and grab a seat. And let me say something about the governor's remarks. He talked at the opening about people being disaffected from their government. I went to Beacon Hill, which is the capital there in his state, and I went in and I was there for an important purpose. I was there to participate in a debate with the British American Project, and we were going to do it in your historic Senate chamber there. But it was fascinating because when I got there and I went in, they talked to me about the fact that there are a couple of elevators, and that the previous governor, who was there before you, only took a certain elevator that the public couldn't go up on, and how you, as governor, traveled with the public in the building. And it was remarkable because this is just a comment from state employees. Not about the big policy issues of the day, but just about human interaction and accessibility. And I think it's an important lesson that here is one of the most powerful people in the country, but that what was taken note of was not just his extraordinary work, but his ability to walk with kings but not lose the common touch, I think is how it was put. So thank you, and thank you for your service, and we are going to engage. But first up, we're going to get a few minutes from each of our other panelists, but I'm going to start with the next governor. She serves on the board of the foundation. She served with me in the Congress. There's no person in the Congress of the United States who played a more integral role in the structure. Now, I played some part in the politics of getting it passed, but in the actual structure of the Affordable Care Act that has reached millions of people, particularly our investment in community health centers, well over $10 billion. This is the leader of the Health Brain Trust for the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and I want you to welcome and hear from Donna Christensen, who we just love, and we love the fact that she's going to be governor, and I think we all know that we're going to have a responsibility to make sure that she's just extraordinarily successful. Donna Christensen.
Thank you, Chaka. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a very exciting time. I was asked at an interview the other day, what was the biggest challenge I've ever faced and what is the most exciting thing I've ever done? And I said, well, it's coming. Both things are the same. Most exciting thing, well, most challenging thing is going to be governor of the Virgin Islands at this particular point in time when we are facing many, many challenges. Challenges I'm sure that many of your communities are facing. High unemployment, a struggling economy. Our young people are not achieving educationally as they should. Healthcare is not accessible to all. For all of the work that I did on the Affordable Care Act, the territories did well, but we're not getting state-like treatment, and so we have many, many challenges in that area. But the most exciting thing is being able to come in and bring the experience that I've had, and with working with Chaka and the other members of the Congressional Black Caucus, the relationships that we formed with the White House and all of the federal agencies, and seeing all of the talent that we have at home that is really unused to really turn things around. And we see a lot of opportunities in those challenges, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a real exciting time. So it's great to be talking about making history, but the most important thing is making a difference at home. And that's what our campaign is all about. I have a great running mate who brings a lot of talent also we run as a team, who brings a lot of talent and experience to the ticket. So we're really looking forward to this. Over in another room, we're having a panel on women elected leaders and potential elected leaders about seizing the gavel. When I first ran for delegate, we'd had a male delegate all the previous years, and men were saying, "Oh, this is not a job for a woman. You know, I don't think we can make it. I don't think a woman can do this job." Now, even the men are saying, "I think it's time for a woman. It's time for a woman." With the mess that we're in, we've had men all this time, it's time for women. So things have really changed, and I'm really excited and looking forward to it. And it's wonderful to be here with Governor Deval Patrick and the other panelists, and I know you're going to have a really exciting session this morning. So thank you, Chaka.
Thank you.
I'm going to head back to my Health Brain Trust now, and
Thank you very much.
have a great morning.
All right.
Thanks.
Now, for the young and not so young in the room, you should take note. This is, she's got her own session, and she took time to make sure that she could come and say a few words on this in this panel and share the dais with Governor Deval Patrick and our other colleagues. Now, in 1982, I won an election. It was 32 years ago for the State House. I was in my early 20s. I was the youngest person ever elected. But there was another election taking place in Tennessee in 1982. And Joe Armstrong was getting elected as the youngest member of the Knox County Commission. And today, as the president of the National Conference of Black State Legislators, he leads African-American legislators all across the country. And we spent some time together the other day on civic engagement. He's here on civic engagement, and we want to hear from you. And then we'll hear from Adam, and then we're going to open it up for some dialogue. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Fattah. I always said that you had the wisdom of Booker T, the strength of Muhammad Ali, and you're a modified version of Billy D. But thank you. It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting us to this event. I've got a couple of members first that are here that I'd like to introduce. We've got two of our senators here, one from the great state of Georgia, Senator Gloria Butler, if you could raise your hand. All right. Then we got another senator who has matriculated her way through the Florida legislature, left the House, and now she got elected to the Senate, and that's Audrey Gibson, Senator Audrey Gibson. I don't think I have any other members that are up this morning. As it was stated, the governor so eloquently put it, a lot of us had a great time last night. And, you know, in our organization, we always say, if you're going to hoot with the owls, then you got to learn to soar with the eagles in the morning, too. So certainly, it's good to see all of you here. And I see my former mayor of Knoxville, Tennessee here, and Councilman Dan Brown. And, you know, all politics are local, so you got... Yeah. But the National Black Caucus of State Legislators organization that was formed in 1977 with 14 members in Detroit, Michigan, and now we're an organization of 672 legislators across the country in 45 states, the Virgin Islands, and we include the District of Columbia because we believe that D.C. should have statehood. And not only that, our organization is governed by resolutions, and for the last 37 years, we've passed resolutions that have governed our organization. And our organization is a little different from the other legislative associations, the national, because we make sure that within our organization that we have gender equity. I'm elected as president, but the only one that's qualified to run for president next is a woman. So we make sure that there is parity in our officership and in our organization. Our organization is governed, as I said, by resolutions that are submitted by our members. We are a nonpartisan organization, and I guess, you know, as any national collection of legislators, and we are the largest membership of black state legislators, you always have an opponent, and people have heard about ALEC. And certainly we look at ALEC, i.e. Tea Party, as our opposition competition. And certainly we have governed ourselves in a way where we get legislation from our members and disseminate throughout our members. Our goal is to educate legislators coming in, black legislatures. As you know, in a lot of states, there are term limits. And from the past, is a tendency among our community when we're elected to offices that we have a tendency to be there. And in the past, normally, when you talk about leadership, it comes from those members that have been there the longest. So these term limits have come in now and have really affected our leadership in our various houses across the country. One of our charter members just walked in, and I always acknowledge him because he was one of those 14 people some 37 years ago that started our organization, and that's Representative Calvin Spirey of Georgia. I must apologize. This morning we're having our executive committee meeting, and so I will only be able to stay about halfway through the panel, but certainly look forward for the discussion. Thank you.
Most African American elected officials, most elected officials in our country are not federal officials or state, they're local officials. They're on school boards and city councils and county commissions. I was with the National Association of Black County officials in the large urban county caucus on the other day, and the person who's got this responsibility of leading local elected officials is Adam McFadden. He's in Rochester. There's a great university there and a political scientist, Dick Finno, who spent some time over decades studying the work of African-American members of the Congress, doing a case analysis of the work being done. But I want to welcome you. He's done some important work on community policing and juvenile crime prevention. I really don't want to use the word juvenile crime. He's done some work on helping young people not even get anywhere near being in trouble and moving them in the right direction. And so let us welcome our last commentator, and then we're going to get to, as the governor said, we're going to get to what's on your mind. All right? Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to wake you up. I'm Adam McFadden. I'm a city council member from Rochester, New York. If you don't know about Rochester, we're the home of Kodak, Xerox, Frederick Douglass, Susan B. Anthony, and a host of other people. We consider ourselves to be the North Star of the country. I represent the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, the president, and we have probably about 400 members. We are a constituency group of the National League of Cities. And NBC Leo was founded in 1970 by a group of individuals who wanted to have input on the federal policy that the National League of Cities were trying to influence on the Hill. Yes. And so there were a group of individuals who got together and said, you know what, we need to have a way for African Americans to play a role in setting the agenda for the country. And so today I stand before you because we're responsible for submitting resolutions that impact what I would call the common life of not just African Americans, but Americans as a whole. We do a fabulous job of going on the Hill, meeting with representatives, trying to convince them of the impact on local communities in terms of the decisions that they make. Now let me tell you why that's important. You see the discourse that we're having now in our country, the anger that we have now in our country. The governor talked about, governing for the future. Because of that anger, we suffer economically, locally and nationally. If you look at the state of education for African American males across this country, in my city, we lead the country in the lowest graduation rate for African American males. If you check the SHOT report, want to know what the percentage is? 7%. And the experts say if we're working on it, it'll take 50 years to close that gap. Do we have 50 years? No. This is why all politics are local. Because when I go home to my community and I go into the store, people are going to ask me, what am I going to do about it? When I go to church, people are going to ask me, what am I going to do about it? When I go to my other job, people are going to ask me, what are you going to do about it? I don't have the comfort of being in another place to not be forced to face the issue. And so what does that mean for members of NBC Leo? When you come into our organization, the first thing that we do is try to provide an environment that feels like family. Because a lot of our members are part of bodies, elected bodies, where they may only be the only person of color, where they have battles about even traveling to conferences or passing legislation or even communicating with their state officials or federal officials. So what we provide is a platform for our elected officials to get together and discuss ideas. Also, we consider ourselves a provider of professional development. When I got elected 12 years ago, I was the youngest person on my council. There was no playbook about how to be an elected official. They gave me keys to my office and I couldn't get anything passed. Wasn't taught how to write legislation. I was given a schedule of committee meetings and when our general session met. That was it. So joining NBC Leo, I learned how to do those very basic things that my white counterparts were not willing to teach me. We as elected officials, specifically black ones, we do very good at being emotional leaders. We get angrier than anybody. Let them do the wrong thing to us. We struggle with being strategic. And when I say being strategic, that means outthinking people who are working against your interests. And I can give you a quick example before I sit down. 6 months ago, we passed the ban the box legislation in my community. When I introduced it to my council and said I wanted to do it, of the 9 members I had 0 votes, just mine. And people began to organize against it. But what I did was I gathered up a bunch of attorneys in my community and I went to my 2 largest employers and got them to agree that they would ban the box in my community. So when I wrote the legislation and came back to my council, they had no choice but to unanimously support it because we had the 2 largest employers agreeing to do it. So when I talk about being strategic, those are the things that you attempt to do. I could have tried to beat my council members into the ground. Would have never worked. But because I got the sign off on my 2 largest employers, we were able to deliver that ban the box legislation, which is now in effect for the entire city of Rochester. Thank you.
All right, so I hope you got a sense of the richness of this, right? And I want you to engage. We're going to take questions. That means now, here's the deal. A question is not a speech. It's not even an invitation for you to join the panel. It's for you to ask a question and then give the governor and our other panelists a chance to answer the question, right? And we want to be respectful of everybody. There aren't any bad questions, right? But we do want to get to some of the issues that are on your mind. So there are microphones, and then some of us don't need a microphone, right? But if you go to the mic, I will recognize you, or if you raise your hand in some other way indicate, we'll get right to it. Yes.
Hi, my name is Ron Rice. I'm a former councilman from the city of Newark, New Jersey. I see some Newarkers in the house here today. Very quick question. We passed, and I'm glad you mentioned ban the box. We passed legislation in New Jersey, in Newark specifically, working with Cornell Brooks, who's the new NAACP head when he was in the Jersey Institute of Social Justice, that actually created the most comprehensive ban the box legislation in America for Eastern City, well, actually for any city. My question is, we had administration at that time that just didn't implement it, didn't enforce it. It was unanimous vote of City Council. My question is, how do your organizations go about not just sort of sharing the best practices of cities that pass laws like this, but also do data research as to their effectiveness, so that when we do pass them, we can say this was good, this was bad, and how can I make it different and cut it to my community so it benefits us. And Congressman, thank you for meeting with me last week on some educational issues. I always am a big supporter and always a pleasure to meet with you as well.
All right, thank you. I'm going to throw this to Adam for a quick response.
At NBC Leo, we have a policy committee that's chaired by two people. Right now, it's Zach Reed, who's a council member out of Cleveland, Ohio, and the other person is, her name is escaping me, Cassandra Jones, out of Pennsylvania, who basically chaired that policy committee. They are responsible for pulling the research and the data together and actually looking to see what best practices are actually working and which ones we probably need to retweak. And so we have a committee that handles that.
And let me also just tell you that the foundation is launching this weekend our Permanence Project. And there's going to be an opportunity in that virtual community for because you're right, there are solutions to a lot of these challenges, and there are challenges that others might have ideas to share. And so there's going to be an opportunity for local elected officials and for citizens to engage around those kinds of issues through the vehicle that the foundation. This is going to be an ongoing conversation with millions of African Americans in their leadership, ongoing 365 days a year around the issues that challenge our communities and their opportunities. Question.
Yes, my name is Reginald Bodine. I was actually just recently elected to the Arizona State House of Representatives.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Give him a round of applause.
So I have the fortunate, but also saddened by being the only African American in the Arizona House of Representatives, actually in the entire state legislature. So my question is, how do you suggest we create a structure that provides access to capital to those who are looking around for office, as we see so many Black elected officials who are locked out by the system because they don't have access to resources? I was fortunate to be able to outspend my opponents 3-1, but we know in so many areas we don't have that ability. So how do you suggest we create those mechanisms for access for those individuals looking around for office?
First of all, congratulations and welcome to the legislature. I always tell people the CBC says they're conscious of Congress, but you know the NBCSL is the soul of the state houses. So certainly we're glad that you've added that soul to Arizona State House. In our organization is there as a resource, as a network among our membership. Certainly there's been a new creation of ways to generate dollars for political campaigns or for legislation when you're pushing it. Certainly you need grassroots support for that. You know, within our organization, we already have tried and true methods that members have used in other states to generate that capital, because if you've gotten elected, certainly you have to look at the next election and generating those dollars. We realize that with some of the decisions that are made by the Supreme Court and how much money now can be placed in individual races by corporations being able to spend. We know we've got a new opponent. We thought it was the old Jim Crow laws that are coming back about voter suppression, but now it's about economics and being able to finance a campaign. When you look 30 years ago, the average state legislative race was about $6,000. Today's dollars, the average state legislative rates are spending $225,000. So certainly, as they say, money plays a strong part in getting elected, and we have to help form those strategies to collect those.
I'm going to ask the
dollars.
governor to comment on this too. This is important. He was one of the principal advisors to the president during his campaign, and it's important and instructive to look at that, because what happened there was a lot of people gave a little bit of money, and when a lot of people give a little bit of money, it adds up to an awful lot of money. And so the campaign wasn't in a deficit position, but it didn't raise money solely through the traditional mechanism, right? And so that's why I think that, we got to think a little bit anew. And I'd love for the governor to talk a little bit about that.
Well, you thank you, Congressman, and congratulations, Representative. You made the point in the handoff. I've been outspent in both of my elections, and I don't think we had enough money to be competitive, but I don't think that dollars vote, people vote. How you spend the money, I think, is also critical in terms of building that grassroots campaign, because one of the reasons I think people feel alienated from politics is that the relationship between the candidate and the people is formed in a lot of campaigns through 30-second ads in the last few weeks of the campaign. And that's not a relationship. It's a lot harder to run at the grassroots, but people will beat money every time. In our case, our state limits are small. They're in relative terms, $500 max. Yeah. And it's a bigger state than it looks like when you're trying to run a statewide campaign. But our average gift, and I say we raised enough to be competitive, our average donation, I think, was $25, to the point that the congressman made. So, there's a kind of a convention in Massachusetts politics and in national politics where what you do is you spend your time calling and cultivating relationships with people who can write enormous checks. And that's a part of it, I understand. But if that's all you do, then you will only get that perspective on the job that needs to be done. So when we're out organizing at the grassroots, it's not just asking people to knock on doors, it's asking people what they can do within their own capabilities to support the campaign financially. And I just say, as a story, I think one of the most, for me, meaningful messages I got in the first campaign was from a man in Quincy who said he had set up online a recurring gift of $5 a month, because that was what he could afford. But that $5 a month was his investment, and he's going to tell, and he did tell people he was doing that $5 a month, and those people told other people, and that's how the campaign got built.
This is thank you very much. This is a National Gear Up Week, and so I got two things going on. I got my Gear Up program, and I'm also chair of the foundation, and this is obviously our biggest week. When I ran for election, I created this little kind of almost looked like a coupon or raffle book, but it wasn't. It was 5 for Fattah, and it listed 5 basic things that and one of them was Gear Up, right? So, now Gear Up is 13 million kids. It's $5 billion. It's helped young people all over the country. But in that instance, what I was saying was, if you supported Gear Up, give me $1. And if you supported these other things, give me $1. And if you give me $5, it makes a difference. And I had a young woman who did this recurring thing, $25. Every time she got paid, she gave the campaign got paid, right? And it was her contribution. We think about money in big terms, but my daughter raised money for Obama when he ran for the U.S. Senate. And she was in law school, and she came home for Thanksgiving, and governor, she said, now I raised, tens of thousands of dollars for this guy's running for Senate in Illinois. I said, well, you haven't ever raised me $1. Ever. And I'm paying all these tuition bills and everything, right? And Calvin, she said, but Dad, you have never asked me to raise $1. So the biggest thing you need to know about fundraising is that if you don't ask, you won't receive. Whether you ask them for $1, whether you ask them for 10, that it's all in the effort, and candidates and have to create organizations that make sure that people get asked. Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Marcus Batchelor. I'm 21 years old. I'm a senior at George Washington. I'm also a DC native. I live in Ward 8. And so I know Rochester was the first home of Douglas, but we like to think Washington was his best home. And I'm currently running for Advisory Neighborhood Commissioner, which is the lowest form of elected office here in DC with no legislative authority. So my question is, in a neighborhood like mine where my neighbors are majority African American, overwhelmingly African American, are at risk of displacement, poverty, education inequality, how can we use small offices to make big impact in our communities?
Yeah.
Go.
So Marcus, first of all, good luck. And I hope you, look, I've known you for about 2 minutes now. I would vote for you. Because it does something for me to see a 21-year-old black man say, I have something to offer in service. I think that's incredibly important. So whatever the outcome, I'm already proud of it. Now, a tactical, or maybe this is a strategic point. Joe mentioned ALEC. Adam mentioned the emotional leadership black leaders often offer, and the strategic leadership we less often offer. ALEC and the hard right have been organizing in what you call small offices for a long time. Yes. That's one of the reasons why some of the voter suppression laws, which, by the way, they've been thinking about for 12 years and working on for 6, passed in places. They're the sorts of things that require an ignorance of history or a cynicism about it in order to vote for. But they plan. They look out. They get ready. And so I'm thrilled that you're running. I mean, and I say this as somebody who cut the line, right? I didn't start in one office and come up the usual channels, but we need people at all levels who frankly are prepared to cut lines of their own and not wait for permission from whatever the local establishment is, but are prepared to go out and earn it, which is an opportunity that democracy allows. So when you win, I hope that we find ways to tell your story as an example for other young people, and middle-aged people and old people too, around the country.
Look, man, you're going to get it done. 21 is when I ran for my first office. So the governor's right. In every office I've ran and won, I run against an incumbent. So the first thing is, don't wait in line. If you're waiting for somebody to tap you on the shoulder and say, now is your time, that's not happening, all right? You need to go for it. And starting out at the bottom, there's some, political science in our country's been studied. You can look at Boss Cox's Cincinnati, look how the machines were built. And it was a simple notion at the grassroots level is you got to get people who are saying they're willing to work with you politically, your neighbors, that come out and vote, to do the things they want to, so that they can get the things done they want to get done, whether it's the pothole fix or the vacant house boarded up or the schoolyard fixed up, whatever those things are. But you have to get people to aggregate themselves under your political leadership. And you got to promise them that you're going to work to get results. The results they want, not the results you want. The results that's what representation is all about. So you can get it done. All right?
Thank you. Let me get a piece of it too.
Yeah, go ahead, man. Joe, get a piece of that.
I'm going to say to you, because I started out about as young as you did, and I can tell you this: the first thing you want to do is read the governing charter of the organization that you want to run for. so that way you could educate the folks in your community what it actually does, because a lot of times people do not realize what you have the authority to do and not to do. It's the first thing. The second thing is, if you lose in your first attempt, come back a second time. You learn a lot when you lose. You probably won't learn anything if you win.
You learn more when you lose.
Absolutely. And so I would say stay the course. And also, as a young person, I had to learn this the hard way. How you present yourself to the voters is how you need to present yourself all the time. So work on your craft, but also make sure that you are also holding yourself up in a way that when people see you out in public, that they're not questioning why they supported you.
Thank you very much. Barack Obama lost a race for the 2nd Congressional District in Illinois. Most people don't know this because we kind of gloss over things in life. He lost a race for the House. He lost a race to be one of the 40-plus members of the House who are in the Congressional Black Caucus. Every newspaper in Chicago wrote his political obituary, and all of them, about how he was done, and he had jumped the line, and the machine was going to go after him. They're going to take his state Senate seat from him, and he should have never ran for Congress. And what he did was he said, okay, I got that. Not running for the House again, even though I lost. I'm going to run for the U.S. Senate. And everybody said, wait a minute, you're running against a self-funder. He's going to spend $30 million and this and that. Next thing you know, he won. And before he could warm the seat in the U.S. Senate, people thought he was out trying to sell a book or whatever. Crowds were gathering all over the country. Next thing you know, he was winning in Iowa. And the realization that he was going to be the President of the United States became even more clear. So never, ever, politics, you don't lose. If you're participating, you're winning. And what you have to do is be strategic about what your next steps are. This young lady's got a question, and then we're going to come back to the line.
You talk about cutting in line.
Yes, that's why I picked you.
Good morning. My name is Coretta Bennett, and I'm a parent of a Better Chance Scholar.
Oh, excellent.
All right.
Right now. And I'm here more or less as a mentor to these 4 students here, which are a part of the Student Emerging Leadership Program in Montgomery County, Maryland. And I wanted to pose to you, Governor, and the rest of the panel, if you could share one piece of advice as it relates to education or something that's prompted your career and your decisions along the way, what piece of advice would you be able to share with these 4 students?
Wow. Well, Coretta, first of all, thank you for being involved with ABC, which was transformative in my own life. It's the program that enabled me to come from the south side of Chicago, where I grew up on welfare, to go to Milton Academy, which for me was like landing on a different planet. I will say, maybe just to jump off of that for the 4 of you, that you'll have other opportunities where you will choose to or find yourself landing on a different planet, where the language is different, the expectations are different, the code is secret to you or unknown to you, like the ways that I think you were saying, Adam, when you got there and you had a piece of legislation and nobody taught you how to write legislation, how to build a coalition. They knew, but they didn't teach you because that was a part of the code. I think what I found going to Milton Academy from the south side of Chicago is that it was welcoming enough, but they were only interested in so much of my life back on the south side of Chicago. And when I got home on the south side of Chicago, they were only interested in but so much of my life back at Milton Academy. So it felt like the price of admission to the one world was rejecting the other, which is an incredible kind of pressure for a 14-year-old, but it's a familiar kind of pressure for a lot of us in this room. And so for me, what I had to do is figure out who I was and be that all the time. And the people who were really my friends and who really loved me would love me for that. It was painful at times, but it turns out to have made a huge difference for me. The second thing I would just say is be fearless about failure. I mean, we talked about electoral failure. And I think maybe for some of us who are black achievers, if you will, we're particularly sensitive to failure because we know, at least in my case, and I'll bet in some of yours, that the old ladies in hats back in the church had as much riding on our success as anybody else. But you won't win without failure. You won't reach without failure. And what's the point of getting these jobs unless you do the job when you have it? So I think getting practice at trying and failing and getting up again and doing it again and knowing that you have the resilience and the capacity to figure it out and do it better the next time is incredibly important. And I have a lot of experience with failure in my and setbacks in my life, to the point where I don't even see it as failure anymore. I see it as fuel.
Wow. Nothing more needs to be said on that.
Good morning. Brian Jones, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Union City, Georgia. Good to see you all, panelists, member of NBC Leo. My question is, as you retire out of your offices, whether it's Congress, state houses, how do we continue to mentor young people on city councils and school boards to bring them up so that we have minority representation as governors, state legislators, or in Congress?
Well, I think that it's important that at every step of the way, right? And part of what this forum is about is that information is transferred, right? Because whether we retire or whether you retire, one of us, you know, is not as consequential as that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. That you should not have to start where I started out at, right? You know what I'm saying? So, or where Adam says he started out at, right? That the whole idea is we should be able to build on this success, right? So you have a period of time where most of the African American elected officials came out of the civil rights movement. And now you have a period in which many of us have come more out of, you know, my graduate degrees in government administration. And I've been I've been running since I was 21 and in elected office for 32 years, right? As a state house, state senator, congressman. I served in city government. I know government, and I know how to strategically get things done. And that information we have to make sure that others have, so that when they start running their part of the race, they're not starting back at the beginning, right? You know, I mean, me and Calvin have been together for a long time doing this work. So that's the key, and I think what the governor, and this is beyond African Americans, this country has a set of challenges that in respect to solving them, is the whole key is finding the solution. If we're going to compete with China, and they got 1 billion plus people, right? And we got 300 million. And we are number one and we want to remain number one, then whoever's got the ideas that help propel our country forward are going to be pushed to the front of the line. So, you know, Barack Obama is not elected as President of the United States because he has a certain ethnic background. He was elected because of the choices available. He presented the most compelling narrative about how to move the country forward. So there was John McCain who said, you know, let's go backwards. And Barack Obama said, no, I think the way is forward, right? And the choice was made. That's where we have to understand that at the heart of this, you got to be offering real solutions to problems that people want to address, right? And we need to do that both in our authentic selves, as the governor said, understanding our own experiences, but on a broader canvas also, all right? Joe?
Thank you, Congressman. I'm
Executive committee meeting.
Right, I was supposed to be chairing that in 10 minutes,
right.
but thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
See you. Thank you. All the best. Take care.
Good morning, panelists, Representative Fattah, Governor Patrick, who's actually my governor. My name is Dennis Benzin, and I am Vice Mayor of the City of Cambridge. I was the first Latino elected to the City Council. I'm a graduate of Howard University, and I'm very proud to be here today in the presence of my governor. As you know, Governor Patrick, you are loved in our state and in our community. And the reason why you're loved is that, first and foremost, you made a conscious effort to reach out to the Latino community. Just yesterday, I saw that you were in Lawrence with Mayor Danny Rivera. And so I want you to talk a little bit about how important it is for the Black community to work with the Latino community because we have a shared agenda in many ways, and we have very similar issues. So that's the first one that I'd like you to address. The second is that you did a tremendous amount of work to really expand the innovation economy in our state. Cambridge is a unique place because we have MIT and Harvard, and we have some of the biggest and most prosperous companies in the world that are working in the innovation economy. And you literally have housing developments that are surrounded by Novartis, Google, Facebook, all these big companies, but none of the people who live in these developments are working there. And so one of my big initiatives is around STEAM education. So I want you to talk about how important that is and why, during this Congressional Black Caucus gathering, there aren't many panels around, working with Latinos, and there aren't many panels around STEM and STEAM education.
Let me just say, one is we're going to get the governor to respond, but our leadoff town hall had my colleague, Becerra from California. We have made sure that in this effort that we integrate the issues that are relevant to both communities. So we can work with you going forward for next year to do it even better. But I want the governor to jump in and answer your question directly.
Nice to see you, Vice Mayor. So I think your question gives us a chance to brag a little bit about you and about what's happening in Cambridge. I'll take the second part first. So yes, the innovation economy has been the highest growth sectors, life sciences, clean tech, the range of digital technologies, and that has a lot to do with the fact, as you know, that we're playing to our strengths, which include Harvard and MIT, but there are 300 universities, colleges, research institutions, and teaching hospitals within 90 minutes of downtown Boston. It's the most extraordinary concentration of brain power, arguably, in the world. And that's as important to us as oil is to Texas or corn is to Iowa. So we build on that by investing time and money and ideas in education, but also bridging the educational community with commerce and job creation, and it's made a big difference. Interestingly, not many people know that in the life sciences, for example, it's not just PhDs; it's jobs throughout the range of capabilities. And if we have one big gap in Massachusetts right now, it's in the middle skills space. There are 110,000 people, I think it is, looking for work right now in Massachusetts, and 140,000 vacancies. And most of those vacancies are people who are for jobs where employers are telling us they can't find people with the skills they need for the jobs they have, and they are not, they require more than a high school diploma, but not necessarily a college degree, which is why we've engaged the community colleges. STEM to STEAM, you mentioned STEAM, and thank you for mentioning STEAM. Most people talk about STEM. We talk about STEAM because arts has a role in this creative soup. And there are studies that show that, and Cambridge has been a leader among the cities and towns in this. My sort of my encouragement to the tech industry around moving more people of color and girls, by the way, into STEAM facilities is that, or opportunities, is to emphasize the fun. We treat science, for example, like medicine. That's a little bitter, we don't really like to take it, but it's good for us. Instead of the fun of it, and some of the stuff that's happening around robotics, for example, at Ringe and Latin, for example, is a great example about how to bring more people in and do it intentionally. On the broader point about what I would describe as common cause, with Latino community and Hispanic communities, I guess is a probably more accurate way to describe it. I think to me it's natural and obvious and politically stupid if you don't do it, but it's also to the extent it doesn't happen, it sort of reflects, I think, a lot of consistent bad habits. And I'll offer an example, and then I'll stop. Outside of the Black and Latino frame, we did a lot of work around marriage equality early in the administration, and we were the first state in America to affirm marriage equality. And I remember, and I was involved. I got a little ear boxing from some black ministers, but we got there, and the people were with us. So at the end of it all, I was honored by one of the large LGBT organizations at an event, and I came up to speak, and I said, you know what, I'm really proud to have been a part of this, and because to me it just affirmed an ancient idea: you come before your government as equals. I said, but the question is, where are you going to be when I need you on the next fight? Are you going to find common cause then with us? Because all of us need to see our stake in each other's dreams and struggles. And I think that's the message we've tried to bring to the Latino community, and we tried to get the Latino community to bring to the Asian community and to all the struggling white folks in the middle class who feel like they're losing their grip on the middle class. And I actually think that's a formula for, and I say this as a proud Democrat, that's a formula for Democrats to not just to gain political power, but to use political power going forward. Thank you for what you're doing.
And let me add my 2 cents to that. We were talking earlier outside of this room about North Carolina. There's a race going on there. Anyway, it's very interesting that the Moral Monday movement has been able to aggregate African Americans, Latinos, but also whites in North Carolina who have a very different, much more conservative political perspective around a set of issues. And there's a lesson in that. And we got to be very important to learn this, that white ethics aggregated their votes together to control politics in a lot of local communities for decades. Even when they first started out clashing one to another, Irish and Italians and this and that, but they found the ability to work together and to control politics and to control the allocation of resources. And there's always going to be efforts to pull people apart. But when you study the Obama effort, it's very instructive, right? So when you talk about winning Iowa and winning places like New Hampshire or Vermont, less than 1% of the population is African American, Hispanic, or anything else. I mean, these are 90+9% states that don't have a lot of people of color, right? But he won there. But he also won with aggregations of African Americans and Latinos in other states. And he won in other states because young people and women and aggregate, so that, politics is a game of addition. It's not a game of subtraction. And if you're operating on a subtraction basis, it's hard to move forward, right? So you want to do is figure out how you get your base energized and how you then add to that, right? And you got to see bases in different configurations. Sometimes they're age, sometimes there's ethnic, sometimes it's it has different interests associated there to it. But you want to add, and you have to get the one more than anyone else in order to win, right? And winning is when you get a chance to then actually make progress. We're going to take this next question.
Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Foster. I'm with LB3 Management. We're a minority-owned management consulting firm out of Michigan, and I'm also additionally chief strategist to the first Wayne County African-American executive since 1982, Warren Evans. And a group of friends.
I hear a question coming, man.
Yeah, it is. A group of our business people, minority, Black, Arabic. We formed our own super PAC a year ago. My question is two-part. one part is, in the dynamic of Citizens United and Speech Now, how do you see, from the African American community's perspective, our ability to use those rulings to our benefit to create our own super PACs, to voice our issues, to support our candidates, and to play the same game as the conservatives are playing? And then I forgot my second question.
All right, we'll take that one then.
Yeah, I'll stick with that one.
We're both trying to punt to the other.
I'll be glad to take it. Here's the deal, right? We're engaged in a war to win elections. And elections come every 6 months. And almost on any Tuesday in our country, there's an election somewhere, right? So you got to play by the rules that are there, right? And the rules say, in the governor's case, you only can give $500. You only give $500. You got to get lots of people to give $500. But he said his average contribution was $25, right? So you don't always have to play at the maximum. You got to, but the more people you get, and Malcolm X said, if you get a little bit of money from a lot of people, it adds up, right? So when you get on the super PAC side, the question of whether people are going to write $1 million check, $10 million check, $50 million check, for the first time in our country's history, this election, more money is going to be spent by groups opposing gun rights than who are for gun rights, right? Because now you got a group of people with lots of wherewithal, the former mayor of New York City and a number of other billionaires who say, we don't think that people should be able to go buy a bazooka and walk down the street with it or walk into a school with it. And we got, so this issue is going to be joined a little bit in the policy debate on the super PAC level. But the idea that the Supreme Court made our democracy better by allowing super PACs or allowing unlimited contributions, I don't think we should buy into. We have to play by these rules. But we should get to a point where that the notion that a corporation is a person and that they have free speech and it's the same as yours or mine, but you're limited. You can't write a check to me beyond $2,500. I don't care what kind of PAC you have. That's it. $2,500 as an individual. The court says that corporation is a person, but it has no limit. If it wants to spend $10 million to defeat me, right? That doesn't make sense in anybody's book anywhere. But those are the rules. And we still have to find a way to be successful within these rules.
Can I just make one real quick point? I agree with the Congressman's point. I think acknowledging that we are, as a black community, you talked about Arab Americans and others, I think the opportunity is there, yes, to create super PACs, and we probably should. But my hope is that we will create messaging that's not just defensive, but that we will talk about what we're for and where we're going, and not just how we need to restore what we have. Most people in this room don't remember Mom's Mabley, but she used to say, people keep talking about the good old days. She says she was there. Where was they at?
That's a great one. Thank you, Governor. All right, next.
Hello, my name is Vivian Covington.
We're going to cap this with the last person in line, unless someone else wants to get in line.
Okay.
And you're going to cap it with you. You're going to be last. All right.
My name is Vivian Covington. I'm the mayor of University Park, Southland of Illinois, Chicago.
All right.
Chicagoland. I'm the only African American in entire Will County, which is a huge area. And with that, that's a battle within itself, but it's okay because I'm strong. Hey. I have worked for VA for 36 years as an IT specialist. And when you say that, I try to galvanize a lot of young women to get into the IT world, because I remember when I got in a year ago, they said that, what are you doing? Women aren't technical. So I'm a strong advocate for that, and what I've done was built University Governor State. Now it's a 4-year college. Mm-hmm. We just opened a few billion-dollar site on that to have a technical center in the university, so it's now a 4-year college. Mm-hmm. But my question here and my frustration, I wish that there was some way at some time, some type of bill, shell bill, whatever it be, to make people have a prerequisite to run for office other than an ID. Because that's very stressful for me when you try to implement things and ideas and you're trying to get things moving, which I'm trying to do and I'm doing. I've accomplished a lot in 3 years. I was a trustee for 8 years and then I became mayor. And I'm with every mayor organization there is. South Suburban, Will County, every mayor's organization I'm there, and other women's organizations. But my dilemma is when you're working with the board of people that has an ID, and you're trying to talk about budgetary issues, you're trying to talk about STEM, you're trying to talk about other things, they're completely clueless. And they're trying to embark something that makes absolutely no sense. How do you work with that? I mean, I do have a board that's male that feels that a woman cannot tell them anything, but yet they're not at my capacity level with intelligence. I can say that. But like I say, when I'm at Will County and the room is larger than this and I'm the only black besides the servants, that stands for something, and I stand for my integrity and what I do and how I do it. But I feel that there should be some prerequisites for a person to run for office other than present an ID. Because that's frustrating. Excuse me. I go from my job working as a team leader with Asian, Indian, black, white, men and women. Then I go to my board and they can't do a budget. How do you deal with that? And then they're challenging to me at all times.
We're going to let the head of the local elected officials.
I would tell you to join NBC Leo so we can help you through that.
NBC Leo?
National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials.
Okay.
We can talk after the meeting because that's something we can help you with. But I don't agree that there should be prerequisites to running for office, because I could imagine what they would do to some of us that's in office.
Yeah, that's true too. That's what I mean. It's a
But you got an offer of help?
Yes.
That's why it's good to come to the claims counter, right?
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Hello, my governor.
How you doing?
My name is Rose Sanders, nephew to Ray from Selma, Alabama. And my question has to do with the unrighteous attacks on righteous elected officials. I met you when you were in Selma, before you became the governor, where our people who were part of the civil rights movement came under vicious attack by Jeff Sessions.
Right.
But because of the legal genius, you were able to win. But those attacks are still going on. Just recently in Alabama, some righteous halfway Democrats that my husband had bought along the way, indicted 4 times for crimes just to put this chilling effect. I call it political terrorism. So my question is there a collective thing we can do to protect and to inform and to advise people that when you come into this office, if you're a progressive, you're going to be under attack? And the second thing is an announcement. The second question, you've been promised me to come to Selma. It's the 50th anniversary this year. I want to invite everybody in the room. Something Hank and I have been coordinating for 20 years. But those are my questions. And would you promise me in the presence of the community that you're coming to Selma this year?
Rose,
you take that, I'll take the first.
Great to see you, Rose. For people who don't know, Rose and I worked together on a case a long time ago now.
Yes.
25 years ago now? 27 years ago now, where then U.S. Attorney Jeff Sessions, with the help of the Reagan Justice Department, indicted 3 individuals from Perry County, so just the next county out, who had helped to organize the Selma to Montgomery March, and Lonnie Guinier and Hank and JL. It's an incredible team, an incredible experience, and we won that case and got out of town as soon as the verdict was announced. Interestingly, Sessions was not, am I remembering this right? He was nominated for a federal judgeship?
Yes, we defeated.
Right, and we defeated, so maybe that's a long way around to answering the question, which is that I think, and it comes back to something I was saying earlier about being strategic, we need to be thinking ahead about how we expand and secure our right and opportunity for political participation, because there were consequences.
That's right.
For his, for what he did. And those consequences we brought to bear politically at that time in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, and it mattered, I think. And so I do think that what a whole lot of, and yes, I've come to Selma, my goodness. You
All
know
right,
I've
that's
been to
it. You
Selma.
got it. There you go. Let me say this. We got Congressman Gregory Meeks who's coming. Thank you. I'm going to answer part of your question too. But Congressman Gregory Meeks, who chairs the Congressional Black Caucus Political Action Committee.
He's got to come too.
Right, is my hero in the Congress. He's just an extraordinary member from the great state of New York. He's here. And so thank you for your question. Let me just say this, is that there's no possibility, right? There's no possibility that when African Americans were lynched trying to exercise their rights as citizens, Octavius Cato was beaten to death on the streets of Philadelphia just walking to go to a voting booth. This is not down south, this is up south. That's right? So there's no possibility that when people were jailed trying to desegregate lunch counters or were hit with water hoses and boat counters or billy clubs, right? People's homes were bombed. I mean, there's no possibility that when we try to integrate the highest command posts of power in our country, that they're not going to be attacks. So let's get over that. That's just a fact. We're still going to succeed anyway. That's what the answer is to that question. Next.
But we need some collective organized efforts.
I understand.
Okay.
But next question.
Yeah, good morning. Ernie Jolly, Finance Fellow with the CBCF and with Representative Gregory Meeks.
Yes.
My question is, yesterday, Chairwoman Fudge discussed her efforts to compel the national campaign committees to employ African Americans at the senior level of campaigns. Are there similar efforts on the local level to ensure that local and state campaign committees employ African Americans and women at those senior levels of campaigns?
The answer is yes. We have a campaign for governor in Pennsylvania, and the leading candidate, the Democrat candidate, has got a young African-American male who's a campaign manager. But this is a debate that kind of goes on throughout campaigns. The basic thing that campaigns do is they are like most entities, they're somewhat insular, right? That people kind of grab people that they know or people who they've worked with in the past, but there has to be a penetration. So one of the things we know about elections in our country is that the most important voting group is not African Americans, but it's African American women. Yep. Right? Absolutely. And so if you really talk about winning elections, this is at the front of the line of constituencies that vote at a higher clip and a higher proportion and with more regularity and with more political punch than any other grouping. And so when you analyze, for instance, the McCulloch race in Virginia, that governor's race, that was the seat of success. If you go back through almost any of these races, you will find that when African American women decide they're going to the polling booth, that elections happen. So it is important that some of the messaging be correct and be focused and be culturally competent. And sometimes campaigns miss the boat, but at their own peril. So the best example of what happens though is everybody wants to win. So the more people start to understand the domino of this, I think the more it happens. And the other thing is that the head of the party that the Marcia Fudge was speaking of is President Obama. He's the head, he appoints the chair. That, you know, there's also ability for that messaging to happen from the top. That opportunities on the business side, and it's not just on the consultant side, it's like on the purchasing side. If you'll have a campaign, a national campaign that will decide that they don't plan on doing what they call urban radio. Now, urban is a kind of a nuanced way of speaking about communities that we live in, right? And they'll say that they don't plan on making those purchases, right? Because some consultant somewhere has said to them that that's not an important vehicle, right? Or you won't see them advertising in the, you know, Philadelphia Tribune or the Chicago Defender or the Washington Informer, because maybe these newspapers in their mind don't have the same circulation as others. But these are very impactful vehicles in Arizona and other places if you want to message correctly to African-American voters, right? So you have to have people around the table who can talk about those issues in ways that are not always showing up in these ratings systems that are used, because sometimes those rating systems don't measure our communities in the same way. So that's my view of it. I don't know if anyone else wants to jump in on it.
I do, because I do radio. So.
Yeah, there you go.
So I would say to you, even when the Arbitron ratings show that the urban stations or black stations do have a population of folks, people still don't buy the ads. And when they do buy the ads are not appropriate for the folks listening on that station. So just knowing my progression through the Democratic Party, that we've always been mindful of running what I would call great ground campaigns. They tend to use us to go door to door.
Right.
They don't use us at the level of sitting in the back room in the meeting after the meeting to discuss the strategy and who's the population of folks that you're going to go after. But it's until you start beating those folks, that's when they'll come to you. That's what happened with me. People began looking at my walk list to say, okay, how is he going after folks and how is he beating us time after time? And then you start to get included in those rooms and they ask you who you think should be in the room. So you have to actually beat those folks at their own game first to even be considered to be in the room.
Thank you.
I'd like to come forward.
Thank you.
All right. Madam Mayor,
Now,
you have the floor.
My name is Diane Delaware. I'm the mayor of Yazoo City, Mississippi.
All right.
Now, thank you for the applause, but the name Yazoo City, Mississippi should speak for itself. It is a small, rural, economically challenged town where the population has turned upside down and the power has turned upside down, and it still thinks that is the gateway to the Mississippi Delta. And the Mississippi Delta is not exactly what it used to be. So, I've listened to everything here, and let me say to the mayor of Rochester,
City council member
of Rochester. I used to live in Rochester on East Avenue.
Okay.
I need your help.
On East Avenue. 500 East Avenue is my office.
I know where it is. I used to live in Rochester. I spent a lot of time there. I know a lot of people that you know. I need your help. I just became a mayor. I worked at Xerox Corporation all my life. I am challenged each day. I am ready for the challenge. But I'm willing to let you know that I didn't spend my life in government. And we're talking about win and fail. Well, I'm 64 years old and I'm trying to fix something. Okay. And I just need some help because maybe I've been a mayor 5 months. So maybe I'll be a mayor again, I don't know. But what I do know is I got 3.5 years
Get something done.
to get something done. So the reason I gave you my card and the reason I did this way is because when I call you, I want you to remember me and I want you to answer.
I like that. All right.
Thank you.
Well, I think that you said everything, which is that you do want to achieve. And we want to help you, and I got your card, and I know the governor got your card, and Adam got your card. When you said you came from Rochester, that made the point. So I think it's a great time to bring this to a conclusion. I want to thank the governor for his extraordinary leadership over these many years and his political insights. And I think that his future in public service is not yet, even though his term as governor may be coming to an end, I think somehow we'll see him on the stage of public service many, many times in our future. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Adam, your work is remarkable because it's local, right? And all politics is local. And you said you can't escape the other places. So you're right, because, you know, those of us who serve in Washington, we can be in the district, be in Washington, but you're there all the time. and I want to thank you for participating. Thank all of you for your great questions. This session has come to an end. There are afternoon set of sessions, and we'll see all of you as we continue through ALC. Thank you very much.
Got one over here. I'll get you one.